Hi friends, host Eric here, host of Talking with Famous People. And today I want to talk about introverted intuition. So there's a lot of confusion about introverted intuition, a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of disagreement. There's not misunderstanding necessarily, it's just because somebody disagrees with you, they may just disagree. And a general sense that it's probably the hardest of the functions to explain or understand. I regularly get comments from people saying, can you please do a video on introverted intuition? And I haven't actually done just simply that, a video that's about introverted intuition and not anything else. So let's do that video right now. What is introverted intuition? Well, let's first ask the question, what is intuition in general? Intuition is something that people mean a lot of different things when they say, right? But for the purposes of cognitive functions, intuition is the recognition and relationship with time objects, which is to say ideas, abstractions, metaphysical things, versus sensing, which is the relationship with the spatial world. So when we're talking about intuition in general, we're talking about metaphysical things. And remember, metaphysical things can be as simple as Judy doesn't like Bill. That's a metaphysical thing, right? Judy doesn't like Bill. It's not something that is a physical anything related to that. It's purely metaphysical. It's a statement with a truth value, but it's purely metaphysical. We can know truths like that. Judy doesn't like Bill. Just like we can know truths like you can't fit that porcupine into this teacup, right? That's a truth we can know. We know it through our senses. That would be a sensing truth. Intuitive truths are about things like I said about Judy and Bill, right? So then the question becomes, what's the difference between introverted intuition? What makes introverted intuition distinct as a form of intuition from any other kind of intuition, specifically extroverted intuition? Well, introverted intuition, the introversion-extroversion attitude distinction, to me, designates which thing you assume takes care of itself. So, for me, I assume NI takes care of itself because I'm busy with NE. If you have the other one, you assume that one takes care of itself. Let's use feelings as an example to explain this concept because it's easiest to understand there. With feelings, if you're an extrovert feeler, you assume you're going to be fine. You're worried about them because they're the ones who have problems with shit. You're cool with whatever. You're easy. You go with the flow. That's how you perceive it yourself, right? That's your understanding of it. This is the story you tell to make you correct and everybody else wrong, basically. And when you say, I'm easy, I'm not fussy, they're the ones who get upset about everything, like that, right? Then you're telling the extroverted feeler's version of that story. Anyway, if you, on the other hand, say, of course I'm worried about how I feel because I'm me, right? Those people can take care of their own feelings. If you are like that, then you're a feeler. So it's basically which one will take care of itself. Will your feelings take care of themselves, or will their feelings take care of themselves? Obviously, more logical to say their feelings will take care of themselves, but that doesn't matter. The point is, for intuition, it's the same way. Except the difference is, with intuition, instead of talking about feelings or whatever else like that, we're talking about our understanding of options, our understanding of ideas, our understanding of creative processes. So, for an introverted intuitor, they're the type that has a clear understanding of which is the right choice artistically, what's a bad choice artistically, for example. No, that's too much of that. You don't want. That's too risky. You don't want to do that. That sort of thing. Or, boom, that's gold, dude. That's introverted intuition from an art perspective. Like when you realize which things stand out as uniquely good and what stuff is mediocre and what stuff's no good, and you can tell. Now, note that there's a certain finality to introverted intuition. That just doesn't work. It fails. But it seemed like I know it seemed like a good idea, it just didn't actually end up working. You're right. Logically, it makes sense. It should have worked, and all that stuff you're saying is true, but I can just tell it just doesn't work, dude. Sorry. Introverted intuition there, right? It's beyond, you can explain it. You could come up with reasons as to why it is the case that it's introvertedly, intuitively true or false, that something is good or bad or whatever, but it won't change that fact that it is. Your explanations won't impact the reality that introverted intuition knows. Now, usually introverted intuition is correct for most people, most of the time. It's most correct when in the hands of an INFJ or an INTJ, because they are the dominant NI users. It's also highly effective when used by ENFJ or ENTJ, because they use it as their tool function. Those 1-2s, that's where we make our bread and butter. And the people who have introverted intuition in the first or second slot, in the dominant or auxiliary position, they are going to necessarily utilize it most effectively, because after all, it's their thing. It's what they do. So, for those types, there's a certain risk with their infallibility in a way. It's as they get very accustomed to their intuition being right about things, and consistently so, they can run the risk of becoming a little too certain about things that they can be at risk of ignoring the power of NE. But that's a mistake. Same thing is true of extroverted intuition. And it's hard to talk about one without talking about the other, right? So for me, I have an ongoing, this channel demonstrates perfectly to me the respective roles of the two kinds of intuition and my challenges in dealing with them and stuff like that. I have no problem coming up with more possible videos. I have a problem deciding which ones to make and which ones I ought to make and which ones are good and which ones are bad and all that kind of stuff. There's a certain amount of attentiveness that's required to each individual piece of work that NE would like to reject. Extroverted intuition would like to say, look, it doesn't really matter, let's just get the idea out. It doesn't really matter if it's executed well, it doesn't really matter if it's right or perfect or whatever. The point is it's a good idea. That's all that really matters. Well, introverted intuition understands things a little bit more clearly in the sense that it says, actually, it doesn't work like that in extroverted intuition. It has to work holistically. And sometimes it's true you can get away with certain bad kind of presentations in certain ways, in certain contexts, but that does not mean that this works here. It's not, as a matter of fact, it doesn't work here because you didn't execute it well enough. Even if it is a good idea, I can't even tell. You'd have to redo it and make it into a proper rendering of that idea. That's the important thing. Before you can really know. Introverted intuition may be able to recognize genius in its raw form too. I'm not saying it can't, but I'm saying is that it's looking for holistically true things that are true as a whole, that are like, yes, complete, it's got it, all the things fit together perfectly. That's what introverted intuition is looking for, and it knows when it finds it. So for somebody who's an introverted intuitor who's got that high up in the stack, they're going to be pretty clear about what is and what is not. Not necessarily clear about what they ought to do, though. That's a different matter entirely. But clear about what is and what is not, and they'll usually be right. They can be clear about what is and what is not, even about very complex things, complex system things that would seem to require a lot of parsing through to an extroverted intuitor, but to an introverted intuitor requires allowing the various informations to come in and taking the time then to sit with those informations without actively messing with them until introverted intuition reveals the truth. So the time frame aspect is another difference of intuitions between extroverted and introverted. In extroverted intuition, the time frame is very real time. It's the ideas pop into your head as quick as you say them. The next ideas are already there. But with introverted intuition, it requires processing time. However, that doesn't mean it's worse or something. Obviously, it's in conjunction with other functions that allow you to access things you've already learned and apply that knowledge. So as introverted intuition gathers its truths and builds a toolbox, the introverted intuitor becomes ever more effective if they are aware of this and making an effort to optimize, become ever more effective at utilizing this tool in ways that don't require any time frame things, because that stuff's already, they've got a heuristic for it of some sort, you know? And so that they don't need to direct their intuition towards that. And so they leave their intuition to delight them with discovered truths that it presents. How about this? Oh, introverted intuition. You're so right again, says the introverted intuition user. I have an analogy I've used before. I'll explain it again real quick because I'm finishing up this particular branch, so I don't have to. It'll be a nice even stopping spot on both activities concurrently. The analogy is this. Intuition is like hunting. It's hunting for meaning beasts in the forest. What sort of meaning beast shall we catch today, Hans? I'm looking for the meaning beast of extraverted intuition. No, the meaning beasts are not extroverted intuition and introverted intuition. Instead, it's the hunter. Okay? Extroverted intuition, ENTP or ENFP. They walk into the forest hunting. Say, all right, I got all these guns. I got this bow and arrow. I got these rocks and a sling, and I got my fists and everything. Now, let's go find some goddamn animals. Firing bullets everywhere. And then finally you go, aha! Look! All those things are dead. And then the introverted intuitor goes, okay, we don't need all those things. We're only are two people. What are we going to eat? Well, now we got lots of choices. What do you want to eat? None of those things are edible, Eric, except for that one. Let's eat that. Okay, cool. Introverted intuition, as a hunter, it goes into the forest. It sits in a tree, completely still, waits for the deer to walk by, and then shoots it. That's the difference between extroverted intuition and introverted intuition. And my introverted intuition is telling me right now is the time at which I should stop this video. So I will. Thank you very much for watching Jargon with Famous People. My name has been Host Eric and will remain Host Eric going forward in case you were worried about that. I hope you'll tune in again and enjoy your day.